Okay, so this is a seated chair session in the clinic, and I am going to be coaching Cassidy through working on PEG. So, Cassidy, so we're going to start by just make sure that it's directed at me. Yeah, there we go. All right, so there's a couple different ways you can do a chair session. One way is that you can just work on people's shoulders, and that's useful. But you can also use the pendulum to determine if there's a particular chakra that might be helpful to work on. So that's root, second, third, fourth, that's turning into a line, okay? Fifth, line, third eye. Okay, so because it's our heart and throat, that's actually the shoulder piece that we do. So we start off by doing that, but just coming to the person and just putting your hands on their shoulders and maybe just digging in a little bit, kind of palpating and just getting a sense of the tension. So go ahead and start with that. You just feel if there's knots, in any particular area, and just, kind of what your sense is working in there. Once you do that, then you pick a side and you use the two weighted forks. Let's do the side since I'm on it. And you just start to come in, and you really want to make sure when you use the weighted forks on people that you really press in. My observation in what students do is that they tend to just rest the forks on the body. So Peg, how does it feel when I rest them versus when I press them?
Pressing is way more intense.
Yeah, and pressing is just, it feels better generally. That generally, for the receiver, pressure is better than not. Okay, so do a few points, kind of squeezing the traps together in front and back, just feeling the rhythm and what you notice in your hands as you're doing that. Now, I did not bring, let's just do one side, because when we do seated chair sessions, you want to do all the work on the body on one side, then work in the field on that side, and then you have them notice, like, what's the difference between the sides. So it's a good practice. This is useful for people who are skeptical, because you can work on one side and then there's a very tangible difference between the side you worked on and the side you didn't, and it's usually visible. So we have a joke. So how's the pressure that Cassidy's using? Is it as much as I was?
No, you could go a little further.
Okay, so more pressure.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
It's often, I think, 3 times what people think it ought to be. It's more than you think it ought to be, almost without fault, okay? So you always want to make sure that you're getting feedback from people about the receiver's experience of the pressure. Experiment. Do it hard, do medium, do it softer, see. And everybody's going to be different too. But generally in the shoulder region, people can handle a lot of pressure. Now, I know for me, I'm like, just put meat hooks in there. You don't really want to have that area work hard. If you had a crystal with you, you could also just use one tuning fork and a crystal in that area as well. I didn't bring one downstairs with me, so we're not going to do that at the moment. But good. Okay, so once you've done that a little bit, then we're going to pick one fork and we're going to go off to the side of the field and we're going to start to work our way in. Okay, so the 2 forks we have the 54, we have the 62. The 54 is bigger than the 62. The 54 is more masculine, it's more yang, it's a little more aggressive. The 62 is more feminine, it's more yin, it's a little softer. I have observed, and now this is not a hard and fast rule, that the 54 likes to work on the left side of the body. So the feminine side of the body likes the masculine fork, the masculine side of the body likes the feminine fork, okay? But experiment and make your own observations around this. Okay, so we're going to be working on the left side of her body, so we're going to work with that fork, okay? But I'm going to have you do the work. I'm going to have you stand here. Now you want to, I'm just going to rotate this a little bit so you can see me. Okay, so you want to stand so that you work forearm, right? So you're going to come stand where I am in a moment. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the edge of the field. Now, if you want to mark the floor so you can determine ages, you can do that, or you don't have to. So that's really up to you if you want to work with the age piece. So first of all, I'm going to come find the edge, and then you feel into it, like there's a lot of anxiety here. So this tells me that Peg might have had an anxious or difficult, stressful birth, or that her mom was really anxious or stressed. And so it's running like really fast here. So I'm just gonna hang out in it and stay with it and let the body kind of adjust and invite Peg to share what she's noticing. So Peg, what do you notice when I'm in this particular spot at the edge of your field?
Nothing at the moment.
Good, okay. So I'm gonna have you stand here, Cassidy, and just start moving in. So Peg, if you notice anything in particular, like if you notice you start to get anxious, or that's it right there, right? You can feel it. Or that you're noticing anything about your breathing, you can share that, give that feedback. And then Cassidy, you want to make sure that you keep that vibration moving, right? Because when you get here, you can really feel that anxious energy, right? So you want to stay in it. Now, what I'm noticing, just the difference in these two forks, is that the energy that's here is amplifying the 62, it's making it vibrate more, whereas it's sucking the sound right out of the 54, right? So this is just the way that these different frequencies interact with the field. Good. So, yeah, so that feels like it wants to move now. So now when we work with the weighted forks in the field, they like to bounce slowly and saw. So that's moving the fork back and forth. Whenever you hit a sticky spot, like right here, so we just come inside right there. See if you can feel that spot, Cass. Right there.
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
breathe, and you need to ground. Yeah, take off your shoes. That's a good idea. Oops. Good, and then coming back and investigating it, and then staying with it, and you can saw it a little bit. Peg, do you notice anything in that spot? No. So I'm noticing I have to breathe. So when you as the practitioner get in a place where you're like, okay, I'm having to breathe, then you can invite them to breathe. So you can say, okay, Peg, when I'm in the spot where I'm feeling is a lack of breath, I'm just gonna invite you to take a nice big breath into your belly, and then exhale down out of your feet. Good. Okay, and when you're working in the field and you have one free hand, you can use a puck so that you're not spending the whole time bumping against your hands. So I'm going to give you that, Cass. Okay, you're going to come back and feel. Okay, now we want to think about being on the plane. We're coming in on the shoulder, right? So we're working both the throat chakra and the heart chakra. So we're bringing our photon pile to here. And then we're going to introduce it back into the body in both the heart and the throat. So we're basically thinking about pulling any energy that's stuck in these areas of turbulence, helping that to relax and then release, and then taking that energy and continuing to move it along so that we can integrate it back into the body. So there's a pretty spiky spot right there, right? Okay, so breathing, grounding, and you can saw it a little bit too. Yeah. You notice anything in that spot, Peg?
Just that I'm much cooler on my left side now.
Okay, so she's feeling cooler. I'm feeling the need to take a really big breath, so Cassidy, make sure you're breathing, and Peg, make sure you're breathing too. Good, saw a little bit. Yeah, it's almost like a little nauseous right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if we were working with ages, we might say to Peg, we're at this age, this is around 20, I'm just guessing that it's around 20. But I want us to start to work more with just getting people to become self-aware, to breathe and ground, and not go into story so much, especially in these seated chair sessions, So even if you hit a super sticky spot, just working with them, with their breathing, with your breathing, maybe you need to throw a crystal into the mix. Speaking of crystals, we do have a new crystal that I just wanted to try. And just see what this does. So let me know when you hit the next super sticky spot, Cass.
All right. Yeah, now that previous pocket feels a lot less anxious, a lot less stuck.
Yeah.
I can move through it.
You can move through it. Good. And Peg, what did you notice when he was moving through that?
I didn't feel anything.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of a funky spot right there, right? So
It's a little warbly.
yeah, it's sort of warbly and it's a little weak feeling.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a element called erbium that is used in fiber optic cables to boost the power of photons traveling through fiber optic cables. So instead of using the what's it called? Lemurian, like we usually do, I'm just going to experiment briefly with this. But you remember, you can use any stone or crystal in the field when you're working. It doesn't have to be a Lemurian, it doesn't have to be quartz. I've been using Numite and had very interesting results with that. So remember that you can use any crystal or stone. You could even use a flower essence or an essential oil and place the handle on the fork, on like the bottle or something like that, because it's going to vibrate that information out into the field. Okay. All right. So Cassidy, I want to keep working with this fork in this side. So I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to hold, just like we do with any stone. Ooh, right there. Wow. Okay. So this allegedly helps to jumpstart photons. So Peg, do you notice anything while I'm in the field with this?
Just feeling a little anxious.
Yeah.
Want to breathe.
Yeah. Feels really intense. It definitely feels like it's adding energy. I can really feel it. Okay, so I want you to breathe and ground. Breathe and ground. All right, Cass. So what I want you to do is just practice this whole process of using a stone in the field where you activate it, you place the handle on the stone, and then you move the whole apparatus in towards the body until you feel a particular area turbulence. So go ahead with that. And just start to move it in towards the field until you hit the next turbulent zone. Right there. Okay. Yeah. So just stay with that and breathe. Peg, what are you noticing?
Need to breathe.
Need to breathe. Okay. So what we've noticed mixing this stone here is that it's made Peg more aware of her own body's needs. So before where she was a little bit numb and she wasn't really connecting to what was going on, throwing this stone in the mix has really intensified it, made the experience more real for her, made her really recognize that need for breath. So that's pretty cool. This is something that I may see if we can add to the composition of the tea first, because it is metal. Okay, so what are you noticing is happening, Cassidy, while you're using it there?
It's less stuck. It seems to disperse from rather being like a knot of energy to more of a pool.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so give me that back to me and come back with the weighted fork now to this particular area.
It definitely feels less like a wall.
Yeah, yep, good. Okay, so you want to keep sawing and bouncing your way in towards the body. Now, Peg, now that he's taken that stone out of the mix, are you still aware of where you need to breathe, or not as much?
Not as much. I'm feeling a little calmer.
Okay. It definitely made things a little more intense, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Good. So keeping it moving. So even as you're sawing, you're kind of moving in towards the body. And then don't forget that the fork likes to bounce on its way in. So it likes to bounce slowly and then saw. You want to try to avoid kind of coming in like a snow cloud, because the body kind of does that when you do that. But when you bounce in, and it's a slow, low bounce. It's maybe you're going up 3 inches and down 3 inches, up 3 inches and down 3 inches. Good. So you're probably going to hit something pretty intense right there. That's the ancestral river. So right about here is about 10 inches off the shoulder. That's definitely coming into ancestral information. And it's pretty raucous, isn't it? Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. So just spend a moment with this stone in there again. Peg might leap out of her seat. So Peg, the ancestral river is where the mitochondrial DNA information comes. It's like your DNA stranding. I don't know. It's when I'm in the ancestral river, I just feel a connection to the DNA going back through time, but also forward in time, so that it affects any work we do in here is energetically. Here, Just a hair, Cassie. I'm just on the outside of it. I want you to get more in the middle of it, right there. Oh, feel that? Yeah.
My head,
Oh, wow, that's really intense.
my head's buzzing.
So make sure you're breathing and grounding. Wow, that's really, I can really feel that.
Yeah, it's like all around my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very intense. Ooh, it's even making me a little nauseous. So, just continue to breathe and ground. Yeah, and I'm really feeling it all in through here, right? Yeah. Good. So we want to harmonize that energy that's in that ancestral river, while at the same time liberating any stuck energy so that it can be introduced into the body, so that it can be put back into flow. Good. Okay, that feels like enough, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so now go ahead back again. So you're right about here. So pick up where you left off there. And now, you're just going to move slowly in until you get to be right about here. And then I'm going to take over and I'm going to show you how we drop.
It feels almost like a magnet pushing back once I get closer.
Yeah, you do feel that. So when you get inside the 10-inch zone and around the 6 inches or so, you can almost feel the resistance of that thicker layer of energy close to the body. Good. And what are you noticing, Peg?
Just a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this energy that we brought to here, and I'm going to bring it to the heart. So when we do the seated chair session and we're working on the shoulders, we go to heart, front and back, and then we go to throat, front and back. And we're taking that energy and we are bringing it into the center. Good. So Cassidy, come on over here. So what you're feeling for is vibration in your fingertips that shows you where energy is stuck. Like Peg's getting kind of stuck right here, which is the world pain spot. So this is where we look at what's going on in the government, what's going on wherever, and we're like, ugh, right? And so that a lot of people lose a lot of energy because they're all like, ugh, about what's going on in the world all the time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. We should look at what's going on in the world and feel terrible. But we also need to be able to move out of that and look at what's going on in the world and is wonderful. Look at what's going on in our own life that is wonderful and be in gratitude. You want to move from like, into like, into gratitude, into going into a coherent state. Because if you are fussing about the state of the world, you are part of the problem. You're not making things any better. Okay? Fussing doesn't help. Being coherent and grateful does, all right? So, keeping that in mind, Peg, you should be able to relinquish your attachment to the energy that's in your world pain site and be willing to bring that into a centered, coherent expression, right? We can, yes, there we go. So now that's moving, all right? So can you feel that moving?
Yes, yes.
Good. So now I'm not sticking. I was sticking there and it was vibrating a lot in that spot.
Yeah.
But I was able to pick it up and I was able to move that energy to center. Okay. So once you feel like you've got it all in, and the way that you can tell is that the fork vibrates more when you're right over the center. That's just what happens, right? Then you column. And when we column with the weighted forks, it's a pretty quick column. So you go through multiple times. It's not slow like pulling taffy, but rather what we're looking to do is create a sense of coherence and flow and a consistent thrum all the way through, like right there. Okay, so I want you to feel that and see that you notice that it feels consistently thrummy the whole way from the center right out. Yeah, so that feels smooth. And Peg, what are you noticing?
It's very smooth.
Very smooth.
Everything is
Good.
getting calm.
All right, good. So now we're going to come around and we're going to drop into the back of the heart. Same idea. And the idea is that the photons know where to go. All right, so we don't need to worry about it too much, right? But we want to be able to give attention to both the back and the front of the heart chakra and the throat. So this one moved very easily. And so now I'm just going to column that. And it's anywhere 3 to 6 columns for you to get to the place where you feel like it's consistently thrumming the whole way through, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop into the throat as well. So the idea, you only make one pass from the edge to the shoulder, and then it's heart, and then it's throat, okay? So now I'm gonna come and I'm gonna drop in to the throat. Take a big breath, okay? So she's got a lot right in here, and I'm noticing that I'm holding my breath as soon as I'm getting here, right? So I'm gonna breathe. Cassidy, you're gonna breathe.
When I breathe, I can feel the energy discharging.
Yes, when he breathes, he can feel the energy discharging, and that's why we make those big breaths, because our vagus nerve goes, right, in response to the information. Well, we gotta let it go. That's not our information. We gotta discharge it down, all right? And you gotta be super mindful of that when you're working. You are discharging it down. And that you're also really encouraging that the person you're working on is breathing. Breathing. You want them to breathe, because if they're not breathing, they're not integrating, they're not releasing. Whoa, a lot moving right here. All right, so Cassidy, what I want you to do is kind of follow like what I'm doing. So you're gonna come, this is the throat chakra filter. She's got a lot stuck there. So I want you to methodically kind of come in and drop. Now, when we drop into the throat, do not come in inside the chin, okay? That is not a comfortable place for people. So whenever we're dropping into the throat, we're staying above the chin, front of the chin, okay? All right, so you wanna see if you can feel what's going on here and loosen it from there and drop it in the center.
Whoa, yeah.
Right? Okay, now just a movement, yeah, right in and drop. Make sure that you're really centered. You want the barrel's really centered on the throat. Okay, and then go ahead and go back. So now don't start way out here, because you know you're working here, so just get right up to it. And then bring it over. And sometimes when you're working with people who have a pretty significant throat filter, which is really most people, especially in England, they're very, very thick there. Sometimes you have to ask permission to dismantle them, because people put these structures in place in order to be safe, to be good, to be nice, to be approved of, right? Especially if you grew up with any kind of adult who, you know, was reactive if you said the wrong thing, or you had a partner who's reactive if you said the wrong thing. You learn to kind of stuff it in order to be safe. So Cassie, does that feel like it's moving?
I can really feel the energy discharging. It's moving through my adrenals, moving through the fork. It's a really crazy feeling.
Okay, cool. And Peg, what are you noticing?
It's releasing,
It's releasing.
feeling it release.
Good. So a lot of people store a lot of energy in that throat filter structure. And, biofilm tuning can really help to release that. But people have to be consciously let go of it sometimes. Sometimes if you're trying to move it and it's not, you got to be like, you know what, in order for me to complete my adjustment, we need to let this go. Is that okay with you? Do you feel safe with letting me dismantle this filter to clean it? You can put it back when we're done to whatever degree you want, so that they've got the power. Okay, want me to check on it? Okay, so, yeah, so that's all to center now. Did that feel like it to you?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so it's all to center, and so you want to spend a moment or two here mixing paint, because even though we got to center, it still felt kind of weak a little bit, right? So when we stay and we mix paint, that helps increase the energy that's there. And after you've done that for a little bit and you feel like enough has built, then you can start to column. So go ahead and it's ready to column. So I want you to, start here and pull out, and do that a few times until you feel that thrum consistent all the way through. Sometimes it'll really feel like it drops off at the end.
Definitely drops off.
Yeah, okay, so keep working it. Peg, what are you noticing?
Feeling more relaxed. And my throat is scratchy a little bit.
You can go a little bit faster, Cassidy. Okay. But yeah, I'm noticing it really is dropping off, isn't it?
Yeah, it has this hangout zone here, and then it kind of just.
Yeah, it just drops right off. Okay, keep going. You know, and sometimes it can take more than a few, depending on the weakness. Like if Peg's thyroid is really low, for example, then, you know, her energy might not just be able to project and to sustain. Do you know about the status of your thyroid?
Yeah.
Good, that one felt a little different.
Yeah.
Yep, maybe one more. Good, what do you think?
I felt that.
You felt, let me check it. Okay. Yeah, that feels good. It does get a little bit weaker on the end, but it stays mostly consistent the whole way through. And sometimes, you know, just going kind of fast like this too can, you know, kind of get energy moving as well. Good, okay, and then the last part is to come and to drop into the throat on the back side. And again, if you do the front first, the back tends to go more quickly. Whatever, you know, wanted to get in, got in the front. So yeah, the back just goes faster. And this feels actually pretty strong. Okay, good. So now Peg, we just finished your, wow, look at, I don't know if you can see the difference in her shoulders, but look how, Peg, can we see you? Look how much lower her left shoulder is compared to the
I
right.
can see it.
Like that's a very visible difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, okay, and what are you noticing? Just sitting there and hanging out.
Can't wait to go home and sing a little.
Nice.
To get rid of
Yeah.
the rest of it.
Yeah.
Start speaking my own truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
And very relaxed on my left.
Yep, and lighter.
Much
And more
lighter.
open, like I can see that you look lighter on this side. Yeah, great. Okay, so now you're gonna use the 62 and you know, because you're working forearm, you're gonna stand this way. So you're gonna find that edge and you're just gonna do the same thing. But before we get out to the edge, you're gonna use them on the body just a little bit, right? So go ahead and do that. Now we hooked up Peg to the heart rate variability, the Heart Quest, before her session, and when we're done, we're gonna go and do another reading and see if we can see any change in her biomarkers just from this half-hour session that we're doing here.
No, you're good.
So it's also a good idea when you are working with people to teach them how to breathe right at the beginning. So when you are, you know, maybe palpating and feeling your way through, you can say, we work with a discharge breath to help you to release and integrate the work we're gonna do. I want you to breathe into your belly, and I want you to breathe out through your feet or down through your tailbone. Okay, so to get people really into that discharge breath that we know is so important in biofield tuning, you know, make sure that their shoes are off and that they're breathing and grounding, and that they are, and that you're checking in with them continually through the process to see where they're at, what they're noticing, making sure that they're breathing. Okay? Good. Okay, so do one more set, Cass, and then we'll head on out to the edge of the field.
Hey, do you use the sonic slider at all?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever used it on your shoulders?
No, I've only gone as far as.
I feel I've been experimenting with working on my upper shoulders, kind of just the part that connects to the neck, and it's really made a difference for me.
Try that
Just
tomorrow.
in like
Or tonight.
basic energy levels and whatnot.
Yeah, good. I've also noticed, yeah, that with the sonic slider, you also want to work the back of your neck too. That's something that I don't show in the video, but you know, when you work the side, but also get around there and do the back.
Yeah, a lot of energy travels through
Yeah,
there. It's
exactly.
like connected
Keep it
directly to
moving.
your brain.
All right, Cass, so get there on the edge of the field. I want to make sure that I got you here. Okay, yeah, so finding that edge and seeing what you notice. Peg, what do you notice when he gets right in there? Okay, don't take 3 seconds to get to your edge, right? It shouldn't be 3, 2, 1, boom. It should be 1. 1 second to find that edge. That's it. Good. What are you noticing there, Cass? Your eyes are bugging out.
It's definitely a little more stuck than the other edge was.
Yeah, it does. It feels kind of heavily rooted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you try the little crystal we got at the moment? So again, we're working with erbium. That's E-R-B-I-U-M, erbium, and it is used in fiber optic cables to raise the energy of the photons traveling through those cables. So given that we're working with light, I thought that it might be useful when working with frozen light in the biofield and wanting to give it energy to boost it. So Peg, when he came back with the crystal, did you notice anything?
A little more intensity.
A little more intensity. So it seems to be potentially boosting the energy, which is good because it helps people to become more aware of what's going on out here. And the more aware and more connected you are, the more you can work with what you're feeling, be aware of these sort of undercurrents. Because I think when we have a lot of difficult undercurrents in our system, we, as a coping strategy, kind of numb out against them because we don't really have any other ways to deal with it. So we sort of disconnect. But those frequencies, those stories are still running at a subconscious level. They're like hidden programs in your computer that are just sucking a lot of juice and not really in use in any practical way. Good, so that feels like it just shifted a lot. Okay, what did you notice?
Yeah.
Wow.
Big shift.
Big shift. Okay, good. So give me that. And then going back, and then, yeah, so it feels like you can start to bounce and saw again in that area. Okay, a lot of upset right out there. So just hanging out in that, sawing it very gently. Just give it a nice sort of gentle saw like this. Like you're sawing a sapling. Yeah. You boy, you. You know how to saw a sapling. Good, Peg, what are you noticing in that?
A little more relaxed now.
Okay. Good, bouncing and sawing, and then if you hit another sticky spot, you can come in with a crystal, or sometimes, you know, just, even there's a technique that I call a micro saw, where you're just moving the fork like a half an inch in either direction. It's sort of like cross fiber friction that they use in massage. The idea that when you're working on something that's really stuck, some kind of scar tissue, you do micro abrasional kind of movements, and that can help to release scar tissue in the field.
Can I see that crystal?
Yeah. I can really feel it, like the moment you connect to what's in the field, I feel it on my skin.
Yeah, Peg's got a really strong feel.
Yeah.
I can really feel it. I couldn't keep my shoes on. That was really like looping back into me.
Yes, good. Good to notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything seems to get a little more electrical when we're using that. Can you feel that thing?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's an interesting feeling. It's a little like charged up. I know. Ah. I mean, it almost feels like it's making my hair stand up, but I don't think that
Ooh,
it is.
I just felt
Hair stand
on
up?
the back of my neck.
You did? Yeah, so that's interesting. I love science experiments. We get to do a science experiment and a demo video all at the same time.
That feels like it's just
Like, oh, okay. We have to wash our hands after we do this because I'm not sure how toxic erbium is. I probably should have figured that out first.
oops.
Be like, who was the one who played with radiation? Marie Curie.
Except on the
Good. What do you notice in that spot right there, Peg? That's a little tumultuous.
That's pretty hectic.
Yeah, pretty hectic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just kind of being in with that, Cass, you know, just being kind of slow and easy, even just kind of staying still. Any place that's really chaotic or hectic, You know, sometimes it's a good idea even to let the sound run down all the way, just to help the body to settle. Yeah, Cassidy, what does it feel like to you right there?
Almost like a storm, but less of like a rainstorm and more of like a thunderstorm.
Thunder and wind.
Yeah.
So that could be about 12 years ago in her timeline, 12 to 15 years ago in her timeline. Or it could be, it could also be the father's ancestral river, which feels a little stormy. You know, it could be both. So, but yeah, just hanging out in it. And make your bounce just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to make these big motions. It's just a little slow bounce. Just really gentle, so that the body doesn't even really notice it, you know, but it's like feeling worked with, but in a really inoffensive way, right, Peg? Can you feel that? Yeah, it's like a little bounce like that. Good, okay, so how does that feel now? Doesn't feel quite as intense, right? It's settling down. What about you, Peg?
It's leaving.
It's settling, okay, good. Good, nice deep breath, Peg, right down into the belly. So you're almost there. Now you're getting to that area that's dense, right? When you get to be about 6 inches, it feels dense, almost like you're being pushed back. Right, so you just go pretty slow from like 6 to about 3, like just in through here, kind of slow. And you're gonna leave the pile like right about here, about 2 inches. You get in about 2 inches away from the body. And then you're gonna go ahead and grab it, and then just watch how I do the logistics of coming around. So, and drop. So gathering, moving, dropping in center. You want to be really sure that you are really coming and you're right in the center. We want to be pretty precise with that, okay? So Cass, I'm gonna have you take over and come back. So standing the way I was standing, because you've got to be able to position yourself so that you can grab that, pull it around, and drop it right there. That's it. Right, drop and rest. Good, okay, and again. Hey, what are you noticing?
Feeling it coming in. Sorry, that's from
No
the
worries.
front.
It's pretty wild how you can feel it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, that sucks all the vibration out of the core.
Yeah, yeah, she's really depleted in this. So the right side of the shoulder is, you know, saying yes when we mean no, putting other people's needs ahead of our own, being an accommodator, being a caregiver, and you know, really putting everybody else's needs ahead of our own. And so Peg's got some depletion here, right? Something that feels like she's kind of overdone that, you know, which we all do at some, especially as women. I know I've done that multiple times. Luckily, we can recover from that tendency, which is good. Good. Does that feel like it's just about all in there? Good. Make sure you're coming all the way to center. That's it. Good. All right. Yeah. Good. So you're in. So, but again, it needs a little bit of like a jump start here, right? So
Yeah.
the mixing paint, you want to do a few until you feel like that's got enough oomph that you can then column. Sorry about all this beeping. I'm afraid if I mute it, I'm going to mute the microphone, but I don't think I will. There you go. Wow, that heat just released.
Yeah.
Did you feel all that? It just got really hot in here all of a sudden. Good, okay, so that feels built up enough in calves now that you can, yeah, start to column. And again, stay, you know, be pretty precise about staying like in the center, right, when you're columning. Okay, so keep going until that feels consistent. Good. Is it dropping off or is it
No, it's really staying.
staying? Yeah, that feels good. Okay. So now you're gonna drop into the back. And the back's pretty easy. Sometimes you can get a little stuck in the joints or, you know, around shoulder blades. But for the most part, it's just the same process again. So go ahead and do that. Does it feel like it's sticking anywhere, or do you feel like you're getting it in there?
I feel like it's moving.
Yeah, okay, good.
It was definitely easier than the left shoulder was.
Yeah, the side isn't quite as intense. Are you leaking, Peg? Or just scratching?
No, just scratching.
Good, okay, so then you gotta column this, or yeah, you gotta mix paint first,
Yeah.
so let that energy build up and integrate. Whew. What are you noticing, Peg?
Just that I'm burping a lot.
Yeah, that's, so when people burp, that's just a sign of release. Same with yawns, burps, yawns, tears, laughter, any of those things. It's just the body releasing, kind of popping bubbles, you know, that you've got these kind of bits and pieces that we're holding, and then we just release them out.
And a little pins and needling in my arms.
Okay.
Just a little.
And that's not uncommon either for people to be pins and needly or buzzy or vibrating. Occasionally people can, you know, tetany, which happened to
I've been
Cassidy.
through it. It's scary. It's scary.
It is scary. Okay, so now you're gonna come and you're gonna do the front of the throat. Now, what we find when we come in on this side with the throat is that on the other side, we get the filter of what we don't say, right? This is like, oh, I'm gonna say that. Well, this is when you're not listening to yourself. This is when your conscience drops in and says, do this, take care of that, be good to yourself in this way, say this sort of thing, whatever. You know, it's sort of like in jazz music, I'd imagine it's that beat, you know, right before you make it, right? That it's just, life is always kind of handing you a cue, and you either act on that cue or you suppress it in some way, right? So if a person has a tendency to not act on their cues, does everybody know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
All right, then they're gonna pile up here, all right? So let's see what we've got there. Oh, yep, big old pile. And these do tend to go hand in hand, the filter and cue, you know, because it has to do with self trust, self-respect, self-acknowledgement, that this is arising in me to express this. This is arising in me to do this. This is coming from somewhere beyond me, and I'm either doing it because I've learned that it's a good idea, or I'm not doing it because I'm afraid in some way. All right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, guys, so it's the same thing again. You're just kind of coming in and grabbing the stuff that's in that zone and just introducing it to the center of the throat. So I'll let you finish that out. And there's a need to breathe. Okay, big breath. And Cassie, you too. Yeah, big breath. Right? And that's a place where you almost have to like forcibly ground.
Yeah.
Really, you know, ground forcibly. Don't be afraid to take big breaths and strong groundings. Because sometimes what it takes, like what we're working with right here is a little, you know, it's a little intense. It's a little, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like kind of like a stubborn horse that doesn't want to be broken almost. So there's a like, we got to get strong. We got to get alpha. We got to get pretty fierce with handling this energy, not take no for an answer. Give it the stabilization and the support it needs to resolve into its best expression. Okay? So I'm feeling like that there's just a lot of almost primal fear in here, that at some point Peg wasn't safe being authentic. And so she had to learn to shut that down in order to be safe. Does that make sense, Peg?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, this is a very primal safety response that is going off. And so we've got to be super certain in our energy in helping the body to manage and digest and get these energies where they want to be. Because the body wants to be, it's designed to be in its most harmonious, healthy, most perfect expression, right? So that's what it's always trying to do. We just need to get out of the way the stuff that's getting in the way of that happening. And a lot of times they're just habits. They're just energetic habits that were born out of necessity for coping strategies, for managing our environment, and they've just become habits. Good, that feels like it's in. Okay, so now you want to integrate for a few strikes and then calm. So I can feel your overall energy level has definitely gone up. Okay, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. She feels more vital. Luckily, we can test for this.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so go ahead and start to calm. Now, seated chair sessions, keep working, Cassie, when I'm talking, without me in the middle instructing you, should take anywhere from 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes tops, but you don't want to go past that, okay? So, you know, maybe 10 to 15 minutes both sides, you know, one side and then the other. You shouldn't go on and on. You know, you don't want to belabor it too much. You can get a lot done in 20 to 30 minutes, a lot. Good, that feels good. Okay, so now the last stage is just to drop in the back of the throat. So just a few drops there, and then that will be ready to go. So historically, I've said it doesn't really matter whether you do the front or the back first. But recently, I think we've been doing the front more, and I do think it's probably better to do the front before you do the back. Now, again, that's just based on observation. It's not a hard and fast rule. Feel free to experiment doing it either way. We do know for certain, though, that you want to do the heart before you do the throat, okay? Starting at the bottom and then working up from there. Good. What are you noticing here, Cassidy?
The energy is more fluid than it was on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It's less stuck and more really fluid.
Yep.
It's
good.
It's cool to feel it moving like
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, you really can feel it moving, for sure. It's surprising. It's surprising for the person who's receiving, right? That you can feel so much energy moving.
Yeah.
And certainly as a practitioner, you know, it's cool. It's weird, and you really can feel it. And there's definitely something going on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so feels like there's just a little bit right there. So, any pain in your neck at all, Pegger?
Not normally, no.
Okay. All right. So that's in all the way now. See if you can feel the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And how much stronger it is right over that. Yeah. So it's always a good idea if you're not sure, if you've gotten everything in, to just do some more. Just my mom used to say when she was teaching me to, now you're gonna, when she was teaching me to bake bread, which I never really did after she taught me, but you know, knead until you think you've kneaded enough, and then knead some more. And it's the same thing with dropping in. I would say drop in until you think you've dropped in enough with the weighted forks and you don't get that auditory feedback. And then just do a little bit more. And then you'll find that you really shifted there. Good, wow. So that last column that you just did changed the energy in the room completely. Everything just got lighter, it got easier, it got more energized. That was really interesting to observe. Good. Okay. And then after you do the heart and throat, then you do a few on the top of the head. And the reason why we do these few on the top of the head is that sometimes pressure gets released and it can go up into the head. And so it's always a good idea to end with doing some columns on the crown, again, until you feel consistently thrummy. So feel that, Cass. That's what you want to feel, is just that nice consistent thrum all the way up to the top. And then you can check back in and, you know, see what you notice. So what's interesting to me is that Peg didn't feel very tight. She actually felt sort of squishy, like in a not necessarily squishy good, but now she feels squishy in a good way. So it's like we improved the tensile integrity. See if you can feel that, Cass.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, your shoulders are less like
They're less spongy and,
Yeah.
and more firm, actually.
Yeah, I can actually feel it myself.
Yeah, yeah, so that's pretty cool, right? And so when you do this final check-in, good, okay, so Peg, tell us how you feel and what you're noticing.
I feel a lot lighter, and for a while there, my throat was a little scratchy, and I felt like my voice was kind of trying to come back, but I feel my voice is much stronger now than it was before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can hear that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And you look more present, more solid and
Yeah.
lighter.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a big shift, right? In just a little while. Okay, so that's it for our seated chair demonstration. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you do many wonderful seated chair sessions for your clients. Okay, take care. Yep, say bye.
Wow.
right?
Yeah, really wow.